she's just a server. That's what my daughter told her future in-laws about me. Not the woman who built a catering business from scratch. Not the mother who sold everything to care for her dying husband. Just a server. Like that was the whole story. Like 25 years of running Granger and Granger Catering meant nothing once you put on a black vest and carried a tray. I'm Lorraine Granger, 62 years old, and I've been working banquet service at the Palmer House Hilton in Chicago for 18 months. Before that, I owned one of the most respected catering companies on the South Side. Before that, my husband James and I built something from nothing. Before that, I was young and ambitious and certain I'd never wear a uniform again after working my way through community college serving tables. Life has a way of bringing you full circle. Sometimes it's humility, sometimes it's necessity, sometimes it's both. What my daughter Nicole doesn't know, what her husband Brandon and his wealthy family don't know, is that I'm not desperate. I'm not struggling. I'm not the charity case they think I am. I have $710,000 in assets. I own my house outright. I work because I choose to, because after watching James die slowly over 18 months, I needed structure. I needed purpose. I needed something beyond the empty house and the medical equipment I still haven't donated. But Nicole sees a 62-year-old black woman in a server's uniform and assumes poverty, assumes failure, assumes her mother needs to be hidden from her new husband's successful family. In exactly 2 weeks, at Nicole's vow renewal party, she's going to learn the difference between what things look like and what they actually are. If you're watching this, hit that subscribe button and let me know where you're watching from. Because what I'm about to share will show you that sometimes the people who judge you by your uniform are the ones who understand the least about real wealth, real work, and real dignity. This is the story of how my daughter chose her image over her mother, and how I chose my self-respect over being her secret. Let me take you back to February 2025, to the moment I found out I'd be working my own daughter's party. Palmer House Hilton is one of Chicago's most prestigious hotels. The grand ballroom can hold 800 people. Crystal chandeliers, 25-foot ceilings, gold leaf details everywhere. I'd catered events here back in my business days. Now I worked them. The irony wasn't lost on me. Miguel Santos, the banquet manager, called me into his office on a Tuesday afternoon. "Lorraine, I need you for a big event Saturday night. Vow renewal reception for a young couple. Chinese-American family, very upscale, $25,000 budget. They're bringing in 150 guests. What time?" 6 p.m. setup. Guests arrive at 7. You'd be lead server for the family tables. Premium service. The parents specifically requested our best staff. "I'll take it." Miguel handed me the event sheet. Chen Granger Vow Renewal Celebration. My heart stopped. Chen Granger, my daughter's married name. "You okay?" Miguel asked. "Fine. This is my daughter's event." Miguel's eyebrows went up. "Nicole is your daughter?" I had no idea. She never mentioned, well, she said her mother was in hospitality, but I assumed management or something. There it was, hospitality. The vague word Nicole used instead of saying her mother carries trays for $16 an hour. "Should I assign someone else?" Miguel asked. "Might be awkward having you work your own daughter's party." I thought about it. Thought about calling Nicole, telling her, giving her the chance to explain why she'd been lying to Brandon's family for 2 years about what I actually do. Thought about making it easy for her. Then I thought about James, about how he'd worked 38 years for the Postal Service without shame, how he'd come home every night proud of honest work, how he'd taught me that dignity wasn't about job titles, it was about showing up and doing your best regardless of what you were called. "I'll work it," I said. "Professional is professional. Nicole doesn't need to know ahead of time." That decision would change everything. But I'm getting ahead of myself. James and I started Granger and Granger Catering in 1998. We had $8,000 in savings, a commercial kitchen we rented by the hour, and a dream of building something we could pass down to Nicole. James worked days at the post office. I handled bookings and cooking. We did church gatherings, small weddings, birthday parties, anything that paid. By 2010, we had 8 employees and annual revenue of $450,000. We'd catered events at the Art Institute, Navy Pier, even the Palmer House. We weren't famous, but we were respected. Known for quality food, reliable service, and treating our staff with dignity. Then in January 2021, James was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Stage 3. The doctors gave him 12 to 18 months. He lasted 20, but those last 8 months weren't really living. They were suffering. I sold the business in April 2020 for $890,000. Fair market value. Used the money to pay for experimental treatments insurance wouldn't cover. Hired private nurses. Made sure James died at home in our bed, not in some hospital room. When he passed in September 2022, I'd spent $175,000 on medical bills and another $45,000 on the funeral he deserved. What was left, $425,000, I invested conservatively. Added to our paid-off house worth $285,000, I had $710,000. Not rich, but comfortable. Secure. More than most people my age. But I couldn't sit in that house day after day with James's absence filling every room. Couldn't watch daytime TV and pretend I had purpose. Couldn't be the widow everyone pitied at church. So, in January 2023, I applied to Palmer House Hilton, banquet service, part-time. I knew the industry, had managed events for 25 years, but I didn't want to manage anymore. Didn't want responsibility for other people's success. Just wanted to show up, do my job, go home. Miguel hired me on the spot. Lorraine, with your experience, you could be running this department. I'm 62 years old and tired, I told him. I just want to work. That was 2 years ago. Nicole knew I was working at Palmer House. What she told Brandon's family was a different story. The lies started small. I didn't notice at first because I was still deep in grief. Nicole would mention Brandon's family, their big house in Wilmette, his father, the retired physician, his mother who'd been a pharmacist. Successful people. People who measured success by degrees and salaries and zip codes. Brandon's parents want to meet you, Mom, Nicole said one day about 6 months after James died. Maybe we could do lunch? That sounds nice. Just, Mom, maybe don't mention the hotel job? His parents are they have certain expectations. Expectations about what? About family? About what people do? You know how wealthy people can be. I didn't say anything. What was there to say? My daughter was asking me to hide my work because she was embarrassed. I'll just tell them you're in hospitality. You worked in catering. It's all true. Just, positioned better. Positioned better. That's what my 25-year career had become, something that needed better positioning for Brandon's family. The first time I met Linda and Robert Chen was at their home in Wilmette, a house worth at least $1.2 million, maybe more, professionally landscaped, 3-car garage, the kind of place that announced its owner's success before they said a word. Linda greeted me warmly. Lorraine, we've heard so much about you. Nicole says, you worked in hospitality in Chicago? I ran a catering business for 25 years. My late husband and I built it together. How wonderful. And you've retired now? I could have corrected her right then. Could have said no. I sold the business to care for my dying husband, and now I work banquet service at Palmer House because I need structure and purpose after losing the man I loved for 40 years. Could have been honest. But Nicole was standing behind Linda, and her face was doing something complicated. Something that looked like fear mixed with pleading. So I said, semi-retired, I consult occasionally. The lie came out easier than I expected, and Nicole's face relaxed. That was the first lie. There would be many more. Over the next 2 years, Nicole constructed an entire alternate version of my life for Brandon's family. I was semi-retired. I was consulting. I was comfortable. All technically true if you squinted hard enough and didn't ask follow-up questions. What she never told them was that I worked 4 nights a week carrying trays. That I wore a uniform with my name embroidered on it. That I earned $16 an hour plus tips. That their wedding venue, the fancy hotel where they were planning Nicole's vow renewal party, was where her mother worked as hired help. I knew because Nicole told me everything. She couldn't help herself. Needed to share her life with someone, and I was the only parent she had left. Brandon's parents are so generous, Mom. They're paying for the whole vow renewal party, $25,000. Can you believe that? That's very kind of them. They wanted to do it at their country club, but I said Palmer House because it's more central, more Chicago. Brandon loved the ballroom when we toured it. Palmer House, where I worked, where I'd be working that night unless I requested it off. But Nicole didn't know that. Didn't know her mother's schedule. Didn't ask. Linda keeps asking about you, Nicole continued, wanting to include you in planning. I keep making excuses. Why? Because, Mom, you don't. You're not. It's just complicated. Linda's world is country clubs and charity galas. She wouldn't understand your situation. My situation? You know what I mean. After Dad died, the business closing, starting over at your age. It's hard to explain. The business didn't close, Nicole. I sold it. For $890,000. There's a difference. She waved her hand dismissively. I know, but most of that went to medical bills, right? And now you're just getting by. I get it. I'm not judging. I just don't want Linda and Robert to judge. Just getting by. That's what she thought. That's what she'd convinced herself was true. Her mother, barely surviving on a server's salary, too proud to ask for help. Nicole, I'm fine financially. You know that. Mom, you work at a hotel. You drive a 2015 Camry. You still live in Bronzeville. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying Brandon's family wouldn't understand the choice to live so modestly. The choice. She thought it was necessity disguised as choice, thought I was putting on a brave face about reduced circumstances, and maybe part of me let her think that. Because it was easier than explaining that I had $425,000 invested and another $285,000 in home equity. Easier than watching her realize her mother wasn't the struggling widow she'd made me out to be. But there was another reason I stayed quiet. I wanted to see how long she'd keep up the charade. How long she'd hide me from Brandon's family. How committed she was to this version of me she'd invented. The answer came 2 weeks before the vow renewal party. Nicole called me anxious. Mom, I need to tell you something. Brandon's parents asked if you wanted to sit at the family table at the reception. That's nice of them. But here's the thing. Linda keeps asking what you'll wear. She offered to take you shopping. She said something about not wanting you to feel out of place. Out of place at my own daughter's party? She means well. She knows you're on a budget. She wants to help. I don't need help buying a dress, Nicole. I know that, but she doesn't know that. And Mom, I was thinking, maybe it would be easier if you didn't come. The words hung between us. Maybe it would be easier if you didn't come. To your own daughter's vow renewal celebration. Because your presence might raise questions Nicole didn't want to answer. You don't want me at your party. That's not what I said. It's going to be complicated. Linda and Robert don't know you work at Palmer House. If they see you there, if someone mentions it, it'll be awkward. Awkward for who? For everyone, Mom. For you especially. Can you imagine how embarrassing that would be? You mean embarrassing for you? That's not fair. Neither is this, Nicole. Neither is spending 2 years lying to your husband's family about who your mother is. Neither is asking me not to attend your celebration because my job might inconvenience you. I'm not asking you not to come. I'm suggesting maybe you skip this one. We'll do something special, just us. Like Dad would have wanted. Don't bring Dad into this. He would have been ashamed of what you're doing. Nicole's voice went cold. What I'm doing? I'm trying to build a life with my husband. I'm trying to fit into his world. Is that so wrong? Not if it means hiding where you came from. Not if it means pretending your mother doesn't exist. I'm not pretending you don't exist. I'm managing expectations. There's a difference. No, Nicole. There isn't. We didn't speak for 3 days after that conversation. Then she texted, I'm sorry. Of course I want you there. Please come. I'll figure out how to explain everything to Linda. But she never did figure it out because I never told her I'd be working the event. Saturday arrived. I reported to Palmer House at 4 p.m. for setup. The grand ballroom looked stunning. White roses everywhere. Gold Chiavari chairs. A 12-piece band setting up on the stage. This wasn't just a party, this was a statement. Brandon's family announcing that their son had married well, even if the bride's family needed some help. Miguel briefed the serving staff at 5:30. This is a high-profile event. The Chen family are significant clients. We're doing premium service. Every detail matters. Lorraine, you'll be lead server for the family section. That's the bride's family and the groom's parents' table. I nodded. My stomach was doing something complicated, but my face stayed professional. 25 years of running a catering business taught me how to hide what I was feeling. Any questions? Miguel asked the team. Yeah, said Marcus, one of the younger servers. What's the family situation? Anything we need to know? Bride's mother is widowed. Father passed 2 years ago. Groom's family is hosting. Very traditional, very formal. Just be respectful and attentive. Bride's mother is widowed. That was me. But nobody except Miguel knew the lead server and the bride's mother were the same person. I'd asked him to keep it quiet. Professional is professional, I'd said. I don't want special treatment. At 6:45, guests started arriving. I was in the service corridor, straightening my vest, checking my appearance in the mirror. Black vest, white shirt, black bow tie, black slacks. Name tag that said Lorraine. I looked exactly like what Derek in that other story had called me. Hired help. But I wasn't desperate. I was deliberate. There's a difference. I walked into the ballroom at 7 p.m., carrying a tray of champagne flutes. The room was filling up. Women in designer dresses, men in expensive suits. The kind of crowd I'd served 1,000 times in my catering days, except then I was the owner greeting them at the door. Now I was invisible labor, making their evening flow smoothly. I saw Brandon's parents first. Linda Chen, in a navy blue gown that probably cost more than I made in 3 months. Robert Chen, in a custom tuxedo. They were greeting guests near the entrance, playing the role of gracious hosts. Then I saw Nicole, my daughter. She was wearing a white cocktail dress, elegant and simple. Her hair was done in an updo I knew cost $200 because she'd told me about the salon appointment. She looked beautiful. She looked happy. She looked nothing like the little girl who used to help me prep vegetables in our commercial kitchen, who used to taste test every dish before we sent it out. She saw me. Our eyes met across the ballroom. I watched her face go through 5 different emotions in 3 seconds. Confusion, recognition, shock, panic, horror. She turned to Brandon, said something urgent. He looked where she was pointing, looked at me. His expression didn't change because he had no idea who I was. Just another server in a room full of them. Nicole started walking toward me, fast, not running, but close. I set down my tray on a service table and waited. Mom, what are you doing here? Working. This is my job. You knew about this party. You knew it was at Palmer House. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell Brandon's family what I actually do for a living?" She looked around nervously. Guests were starting to notice us. A server and a bride in what appeared to be an intense conversation. "Mom, please." "Not here. Not now." "Then when, Nicole? When were you planning to tell them? After 10 years of marriage? Never?" "I was going to tell them. The timing was never right." "The timing was never convenient, you mean?" Brandon appeared at Nicole's shoulder. "Honey, everything okay?" Nicole's face did something complicated. "Brandon, this is my mother." He looked at me in my server uniform, looked at Nicole, back at me. "Your mother works here?" "I'm the lead server for your family section tonight," I said, keeping my voice professional. "Congratulations on your vow renewal." "Nicole, you said your mother was in hospitality consulting." "She was. She worked in catering. I didn't mention the current situation." "Current situation, that's what I'd become. A situation to be managed." "Mrs. Granger," Brandon said, his voice taking on a tone I didn't like. Pity mixed with awkwardness. I had no idea. "Nicole said you were semi-retired." "I am semi-retired. This is my semi-retirement." "Right, but we thought you were consulting, not actually working service." "Service is honest work." "Of course I didn't mean. It's just, you're the mother of the bride. You shouldn't be working tonight. You should be celebrating with us. I agreed to work this event. I keep my commitments." Nicole grabbed my arm. "Mom, please, take the night off. Miguel will understand. Come sit with us. Be a guest." "I'm scheduled to work." "I'm working. But people will see. They'll know." "Know what, Nicole? That your mother works for a living? That I'm not ashamed of what I do?" Brandon's parents had noticed the commotion. Linda was walking over, concern on her face. "Nicole, darling, is everything all right? Is this server bothering you?" "This server?" Linda was standing 3 feet from me, asking if I was bothering her daughter-in-law. Nicole's face went pale. "Linda, I need to explain something. This is my mother, Linda. Lorraine Granger." Linda's smile froze on her face. She looked at me in my server uniform, looked at Nicole, back at me. "Your mother? But you said she was in hospitality consulting." "She was. She owned a catering business. She's working here now, part-time." "Working here," Linda repeated. "At Palmer House. As a server." The way she said it, like I was something unfortunate that had happened to Nicole, like poverty was contagious. "I've been working banquet service for 18 months, I said, keeping my voice steady. "It's good work. Honest work." "Of course it is," Linda said quickly. Too quickly. "There's absolutely nothing wrong with service work. Essential workers. We appreciate everything you do." "Nicole, why didn't you tell us your mother was working tonight? We would have made arrangements. She shouldn't have to work her own daughter's party." "I chose to work tonight," I said. "This is my scheduled shift. I don't need special arrangements." Robert Chen had joined us now. The family circle was forming. Guests were starting to stare. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately," Robert suggested. "There's a side room we can use." "There's nothing to discuss," I said. "I have a job to do, if you'll excuse me." I picked up my tray and walked toward the kitchen. Behind me, I could hear Nicole trying to explain, could hear Linda's voice, carefully modulated to hide judgment, but failing. Could hear Brandon saying something about not knowing the whole situation. In the kitchen, Miguel found me. "Lorraine, what happened out there?" "My daughter didn't tell her in-laws what I do for a living. They just found out." "Do you want to go home?" "I can get someone to cover your section." "No. I'm working." "Lorraine." "I'm working, Miguel. That's the end of it." He knew better than to push. I'd been a business owner. I understood professionalism. If I said I was working, I was working. I went back to the ballroom. Nicole had moved to a corner with Brandon and his parents. Urgent conversation. Her face was red. She was crying. Brandon looked uncomfortable. Linda looked like she'd just discovered something deeply troubling about her daughter-in-law's background. I served champagne, cleared appetizer plates, monitored water glasses, did my job. Every time I passed the family table, the conversation stopped. Guests who'd been laughing went quiet. The bride's mother was serving drinks at her own daughter's party. It was the scandal of the evening. At 8:30, I was in the service corridor when I heard voices, male voices. I recognized Robert Chen's measured tone, and Brandon. "I just don't understand why Nicole felt she had to hide this," Robert was saying. "If her mother has fallen on hard times, we could have helped. Quietly, discreetly. Fallen on hard times." That's what he thought. That's what Nicole had let him think. "She said her mother owned a catering business," Brandon replied. "I assumed it was successful, that she'd retired comfortably." Nicole always changed the subject when I asked about her family's finances. "Well, clearly there's no money there. A woman in her 60 seconds working service jobs. That's not retirement. That's survival." I should have walked away, should have given them privacy. But I stood there, hidden behind the catering cart, listening. "Dad, don't be like that. Plenty of people work in retirement. It doesn't mean they're desperate. Brandon, look at the facts. Nicole's father was a postal worker. Her mother ran a small catering business that clearly didn't generate significant wealth. They lived on the South Side their entire lives. That house Nicole grew up in?" I looked it up. "It's worth maybe $300,000. These are not people of means. People of means. That's how Robert measured worth, by zip codes and property values." "Does it matter?" Brandon asked. "I love Nicole." "Of course you love her. But son, you need to understand the reality of marrying someone from a different economic background. There will be expectations. Her mother might need financial help as she ages. Nicole might feel obligated to support her. So what are you saying?" "I'm saying your mother and I want to help. We're thinking of setting up a small trust for Lorraine, maybe $50,000. Enough to give her some dignity. Allow her to retire properly. Stop working these service jobs. A trust, $50,000, to give me dignity. Like dignity could be purchased. Like I needed their charity to have worth." "That's generous, Dad. But maybe we should ask Nicole first. Make sure her mother would accept it." "Brandon, people in Lorraine's position always accept help. They just need it presented correctly. Your mother knows someone at a nice senior living community in Evanston. We could help with the deposit. Get Lorraine into a place with activities and social events. Other people her age. Senior living. They wanted to move me into senior living because I worked as a server. I don't know, Dad. That seems, Nicole might not like us making decisions about her mother without asking." "We're not making decisions. We're offering solutions. There's a difference." I couldn't listen anymore. Stepped around the catering cart and into view. Robert and Brandon both jumped slightly. "Mrs. Granger," Robert said. "How long have you been there?" "Long enough to hear you planning my future." His face went red. "I apologize. That was a private conversation. We shouldn't have been discussing family matters in a public corridor." "No, you shouldn't have been discussing my finances without knowing anything about them. Lorraine, please understand, we're not judging you. We want to help." "Help with what?" "Your situation. Nicole's told us how difficult things have been since your husband passed. The medical bills, closing your business, starting over. It's admirable that you're working, but at your age, you shouldn't have to." "Shouldn't have to? Or shouldn't have to in a way that embarrasses you?" Robert looked uncomfortable. "That's not what I meant. Isn't it? You're standing here planning to put me in senior living because my job makes Nicole's marriage inconvenient for your family image." Brandon stepped forward. "Mrs. Granger, My father didn't mean it like that. We're genuinely concerned about your well-being. Concerned? Is that what you call it? Brandon, what exactly has Nicole told you about my situation? He looked caught. That you sold your catering business after your husband got sick. That the medical bills were significant. That you're working now to make ends meet. Make ends meet. And based on that, you've decided I need charity? Not charity. Support. Family helps family. Family, I repeated. Brandon, I've been married to your wife for 2 years, and this is the first real conversation we've had. You didn't ask me to your wedding. You had a small ceremony while James was dying. You've invited me to your house exactly twice, and now you want to help? Robert cleared his throat. Perhaps this isn't the time or place. When is the time, Robert? When would it be convenient for you to stop making assumptions about my life? We're not making assumptions. We're looking at facts. You work as a banquet server. You're 62 years old. Nicole worries about you. Nicole worries about what people think of her because her mother wears a uniform. That's different than worrying about me. The service door opened. Linda appeared, looking for her husband. She saw the three of us, read the tension. What's going on? We were just discussing Lorraine's future, Robert said carefully. Her future? Dad and I were talking about helping Mrs. Granger retire, Brandon explained. Maybe assisting with senior living arrangements. Linda's face did something I recognized. The same expression she'd worn when she first realized I was the server, pity mixed with discomfort. Oh, well, that's very thoughtful. Lorraine, we want you to know that you're family now. Family takes care of each other. Do they? Because from where I'm standing, family seems to mean making decisions for each other without asking, planning futures without consulting the person whose future it is. We're trying to help, Linda said, her voice taking on an edge. Nicole has been worried sick about you for 2 years, working these jobs at your age. We're just offering support. What jobs? I have one job. Part-time banquet service, by choice. Choice? Linda's tone suggested she didn't believe me. Lorraine, there's no shame in needing help, but you don't have to pretend this is what you want. We understand economic necessity. You don't understand anything about me. I understand that you're proud. But pride doesn't pay bills. Neither does assumption. We were drawing attention now. Servers passing by were slowing down. Guests near the service corridor doors were glancing over. Perhaps we should continue this discussion after the party, Robert suggested. No. Let's finish it now. You want to help me? Fine. Ask me what I need. Don't tell me what you think I need based on looking at my uniform and making calculations about my worth. We're not calculating your worth, Brandon said. We're assessing your financial situation. Based on what? Nicole's lies? Your assumptions? Have you asked me about my finances? Have you asked Nicole when she last visited my house? Have you asked why a 62-year-old woman who supposedly can't make ends meet is working part-time instead of full-time? They looked at each other. None of them had asked those questions. I work 20 hours a week, I continued. Part-time, by choice. Because after 25 years of running a business and 2 years of watching my husband die, I don't want the stress of full-time work. I want structure without pressure, purpose without responsibility. But the money, Linda started. The money is fine. I sold my catering business for $890,000 in 2020. After medical bills and funeral expenses, I have $425,000 invested. My house is paid off. Worth about $285,000. I have $710,000 in assets. I work because I choose to, not because I'm desperate. The silence was complete. Even the background noise of the party seemed to fade. $890,000? Brandon repeated. Nicole said the business closed. That it failed during COVID. Nicole assumed. I never corrected her because I wanted to see how long she'd hide me from you, how committed she was to pretending her working-class mother was something to be ashamed of. I didn't know, Linda said quietly. Nicole said you were struggling. Nicole saw what she wanted to see. A 62-year-old widow in a server uniform. She didn't ask about my finances. She assumed and she lied. And you all believed her because it fit your narrative better than the truth. What truth? Robert asked. That I'm not your charity case, that working class doesn't mean poor, that service work is dignified regardless of how much money you have in the bank, that your son married a woman so ashamed of where she came from that she invented a different mother for your benefit. Miguel appeared in the doorway. Lorraine, is everything okay? Everything's fine. I'm just explaining to the Chen family that I don't need their senior living arrangements or their trust fund. Trust fund? Miguel looked confused. They were planning to give me $50,000 to help me retire with dignity. I looked at Robert. I make more than that in investment returns annually, but thank you for the thought. I walked past them, back into the ballroom. Behind me, I heard Linda say, "Did she just say $710,000 in assets?" And Brandon reply, "Why wouldn't Nicole tell us?" I picked up my tray, circulated through the party, served champagne to guests who didn't see me, cleared plates from tables where conversation stopped when I approached, did my job with the same professionalism I'd shown for 25 years in catering and 18 months in banquet service. At the family table, Nicole sat between Brandon's parents. Her face was blotchy from crying. Her perfect party had been destroyed by the truth she'd spent 2 years hiding. At 9:30, Nicole found me in the kitchen. I was helping prep dessert service, chocolate mousse cups with gold leaf garnish, the kind of presentation I used to do for my own clients. "Mom, we need to talk." "I'm working." "Please, just 5 minutes." I looked at Miguel. He nodded. "Take your break, Lorraine. You've earned it." Nicole and I went to the hotel's service stairwell. Private, quiet, just concrete steps and fluorescent lights. Nothing fancy, nothing that required positioning better. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked. "About the money." "About having $710,000. You let me think you were struggling. I let you assume what you wanted to assume. That's not fair. You never corrected me. Neither did you. You never asked, Nicole. Never said, 'Mom, how are you doing financially? Do you need help? Can I see your bank statements?' You saw the uniform and made up a story that was easier to tell Brandon's family than the truth." "What truth?" "That your mother is working class. That we came from the South Side. That your father delivered mail for 38 years, and I ran a small catering business. That we built something good but not fancy. Something respectable but not impressive to people like the Chens." Nicole leaned against the concrete wall. "You don't understand what it's like. Brandon's family, they're different. They measure everything. Where you went to school, what neighborhood you live in, what your parents do. And you thought I didn't measure up. I thought it would be easier if they didn't know all the details. If I could just shape the narrative a little, make it smoother. Shape the narrative." "Nicole, you lied. For 2 years. You told them I was in hospitality consulting. You said I was semi-retired. You let them think I was comfortable. Then tonight, when they found out the truth, they immediately assumed I was desperate, planned to rescue me with their charity. They were trying to help. They were trying to fix an embarrassment. There's a difference." Nicole's voice cracked. "I'm not embarrassed of you." "Then what are you?" "I'm scared, okay? I'm scared of not fitting in, of Brandon's family looking at me differently, of being the one who married down, of people judging me because my parents weren't doctors or lawyers or entrepreneurs. Your father and I were entrepreneurs. We built a business from nothing. A catering business, Mom. Not a tech company. Not a medical practice. Catering. Brandon's dad asks what my parents did, and I say my father worked for the postal service and my mother ran a catering company, and I can see it in his eyes. The calculation, the assessment of my value based on your resume. So you invented a better resume for me. I simplified things, made it easier for everyone. Easier for you, you mean? Nicole, I have worked my entire adult life, 40 years of honest labor. Your father and I put you through DePaul debt-free. We taught you values. We showed you that dignity comes from how you live, not what you earn. And you repaid that by being ashamed of us. I'm not ashamed of Dad. He was different. He had a pension, benefits, respect. You're working as a server at 62 years old. That's different. There it was, the truth underneath all her careful explanations. Dad was respectable because the postal service came with dignity. I was not respectable because service work did not. Your father would be heartbroken hearing you say that. Don't bring Dad into this. Why not? He's the reason I work this job. After he died, I couldn't sit in that house day after day doing nothing. I needed purpose, structure, and yeah, I needed to feel useful again. This job gives me that, but you looked at my uniform and decided I was something to hide. Because people judge, Mom. Brandon's parents judge. Their friends judge. That's just reality. Then marry someone whose reality doesn't require you to lie about your mother. Nicole started crying, real tears, not the polite crying from earlier. That's not fair. I love Brandon. I'm sure you do. But love built on lies doesn't last. I didn't lie about important things. You lied about me. About who I am. About what I do. About where I came from. If that's not important, what is? She wiped her face with the back of her hand. Mascara smeared. What do you want me to do? Go back out there and make an announcement? Tell everyone my mother is actually secretly wealthy and I'm a terrible daughter? I want you to tell the truth. To Brandon. At minimum. To his parents. That you were ashamed of me. And you lied about my life to make yourself look better. They already know. You told them about the money. I told them facts. I didn't tell them why you hid those facts. That's your job. And what if Brandon can't forgive me? What if his parents decide I'm not good enough for their family? Then you'll know who you married. And you'll have to decide if being in that family is worth losing yourself. Nicole looked at me for a long moment. Is that what you think I've done? Lost myself? I think you've spent 2 years trying to be someone you're not. Someone whose mother has the right kind of job, the right kind of house, the right kind of past. And in trying to be that person, you've made me invisible. You're not invisible. You're my mother. I think about you every day. But you don't include me in your life. Brandon's been to my house twice in 2 years. You haven't brought him to church where your father and I were members for 25 years. You haven't introduced him to my friends. Haven't shown him the neighborhood where you grew up. You've created this edited version of your history where all the working class parts are removed or repositioned. Because those parts don't matter anymore, I've moved beyond that. Beyond what? Beyond me? She didn't answer, didn't need to. Her silence was answer enough. Nicole, I'm going back to work. I have dessert service to finish. You should return to your party. Your guests are probably wondering where you are. Mom, wait, we can't end like this. We're not ending. We're just being honest for the first time in 2 years. You wanted to know why I didn't tell you about the money? Because I wanted to see if you'd choose me or choose the image you created. You chose the image. Now we both know where we stand. So what happens now? Now, you go celebrate your vow renewal. You smile for your guests. You let Brandon's parents believe whatever they want to believe about me, and tomorrow, you figure out who you want to be. Someone who hides her mother, or someone who owns her history. And you? I'm going to finish my shift. Then I'm going home to Bronzeville. To my paid-off house that's supposedly not good enough. To my $710,000 in assets that I earned through 40 years of hard work. And I'm going to sleep just fine knowing I never pretended to be anything other than what I am. I walked back into the kitchen, left Nicole standing in the stairwell. Miguel looked up from plating desserts. "Everything okay?" "Everything's fine. What do you need me to do?" "Service these to tables 8 through 15. Then we're almost done for the night." I picked up the tray, carried chocolate mousse cups to wealthy guests who didn't see me, who never saw people like me unless we spilled something or forgot an order, who measured worth by zip codes and job titles and the size of investment portfolios. But I saw them, saw the emptiness behind the expensive clothes, the insecurity behind the judgment, the fear that someone might look at them the way they looked at servers and cleaners and delivery drivers and find them wanting. The party ended at 11 p.m. Guests filtered out. Brandon and Nicole stood by the exit thanking people, playing the role of happy couple. Nobody watching them would guess that their celebration had imploded 3 hours earlier. I was in the kitchen breaking down my station when Brandon came in. Alone. He looked uncomfortable. Out of place among the industrial dishwashers and stainless steel prep tables. "Mrs. Granger, can we talk? I'm almost finished here. It'll have to be quick. I owe you an apology, several apologies actually." I kept wiping down my station, didn't look at him. For what specifically? For assuming. For listening to my parents make plans for your life without asking what you wanted. For not questioning Nicole's version of your situation. You believed what your wife told you. That's not a crime. But I should have asked more questions. Should have wondered why Nicole never talked about her childhood. Why we'd only been to your house twice. Why she changed the subject every time I asked about your work. Why didn't you? He leaned against the counter. Honestly? Because it was easier not to. Nicole came from a different background than me. I knew that. But she fit into my world so perfectly that I didn't think about what she'd given up to do it, what she'd hidden. She hid me, her mother, because a server doesn't fit the image she wanted to project. I know, and that's on her, but it's also on me, for creating an environment where she felt she had to. I finally looked at him. What does that mean? It means my family has certain expectations about education, about careers, about what success looks like. My parents didn't say it directly, but I knew they had concerns when I told them Nicole's father was a postal worker. They asked if her family was stable, if there were financial issues I should know about. "And you investigated?" I asked Nicole. She assured me everything was fine, that you were comfortable, that her dad had a good pension and you'd built a successful business. I took her at her word. Except she was lying. She was managing perceptions. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm standing, a lie is a lie regardless of how you dress it up. Brandon was quiet for a moment. You're right. I guess I'm trying to understand why she felt she needed to lie. And I think it's because I come from a world where people are judged by metrics, where your value is calculated by your education and your income and your address. And Nicole didn't measure up? Nicole measured up in every way that mattered to me. She's smart, driven, kind. But to my parents, to their friends, she was always going to be the girl from the South Side who married up. And I think Nicole knew that, felt that. So she tried to change the narrative. By erasing parts of her history that didn't fit. By erasing you, yes. At least he was honest. I could respect that even if I didn't like it. Brandon, what do you want from this conversation? Absolution? Permission to go back to your marriage without guilt? I want to understand. My wife lied to me for 2 years about something fundamental. Her mother's life. And I'm trying to figure out if that means something is wrong with her, or if something is wrong with me for creating a situation where she felt lying was necessary. Maybe it's both. Maybe. He rubbed his face. My parents want to apologize to you. For the senior living comments. For offering money without asking if you needed it. for assuming you were desperate. Tell them I don't need their apologies. I need them to look at why they made those assumptions in the first place. They were trying to help. They were trying to fix an embarrassment. There's a difference. Your parents saw a 6'2" black woman in a server uniform and immediately calculated poverty, decided I needed rescue. Never considered that I might choose this work. Might have reasons beyond desperation. What are your reasons? The question surprised me. Nobody had asked. Not Nicole, not the Chens, just Brandon, standing in a hotel kitchen at 11:30 at night, actually wanting to understand. After my husband died, I couldn't sit still, couldn't be alone with my grief. I needed structure, purpose, something to get me out of bed every morning. This job gave me that. Simple work. Honest work. No pressure to be brilliant or innovative. Just show up, do the job, go home. But you're 62. You have $710,000. You could retire. Travel. Do anything. I could, but I don't want to. I want to work. Want to feel useful. Want to be around people without the responsibility of managing them. This job lets me do that. Nicole doesn't understand that. Nicole doesn't understand a lot of things. She thinks work is about money, about status. She doesn't get that sometimes work is about staying connected to life when grief tries to pull you away from it. Brandon nodded slowly. My mother is the same way. She's been retired for 8 years, and she's miserable. Fills her time with committees and charity boards because she doesn't know what to do with herself. Maybe she'd be happier if she just worked a simple job, something that didn't require her to be someone important. Maybe. Mrs. Granger, can I ask you something? You can ask. I might not answer. Do you think Nicole and I can get past this? The lying, the shame, the 2 years of deception? I thought about it, about my daughter who I love despite everything, about this young man who seemed genuinely willing to examine his own blind spots. That depends on whether you're both willing to be honest about what you want. Nicole wants to fit into your world. You want a wife who loves you without calculation. Those things might be incompatible. Or they might not be, but you won't know until you stop pretending and start talking. She's afraid I'll leave her. Afraid my parents will convince me she's not good enough. Are they right? Is she not good enough? She's everything to me. But I don't know if I'm everything to her, or if I'm just the key to a better life she wanted. That was the real question. The one Nicole would have to answer. Not to Brandon. To herself. You should ask her that. Not me. I will. Thank you for talking to me. For giving me a chance to understand. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for my daughter. Because despite everything, I want her to be happy. And I don't think she can be happy living a lie. Brandon left. I finished closing my station. Clocked out. Changed from my uniform into street clothes. Walked through the Palmer House lobby where earlier I'd been invisible labor. Now I was just another person leaving a long shift. I didn't hear from Nicole for 3 days. No calls, no texts, just silence. I went to work, came home. Sat in the house James and I had paid off together, waited. On Wednesday evening, she showed up at my door. No warning, just rang the bell at 6 p.m., still wearing her work clothes. Can I come in? I stepped aside. Let her into the house she'd brought Brandon to exactly twice in 2 years. She looked around like she was seeing it for the first time, or maybe seeing it clearly for the first time. I forgot how much of Dad is still here, she said. His chair, his books, that awful painting he loved. I haven't changed much since he died. Why not? Because changing it would feel like erasing him, and I'm not ready for that. Nicole sat on the couch. The same couch where she'd done homework as a teenager, where James had fallen asleep watching the news, where our life together had happened in ordinary moments. Brandon and I have been talking, she said, about us, about you, about everything I lied about. And I don't know if we're going to make it. I sat across from her, waited. He keeps asking me why I lied, why I was ashamed, and I don't have a good answer. I wanted to be someone different, someone who fit into his world without friction. You wanted to be someone whose mother wasn't a server. Yes. Is that so terrible? Wanting to move beyond where you came from? Moving beyond is different than erasing. You can grow without pretending your roots don't exist. But my roots embarrass me, Mom. There. I said it. Growing up in Bronzeville. Dad's postal uniform. Your catering business. That was always just barely profitable. Shopping at thrift stores. Using coupons, being the scholarship kid at DePaul, while everyone else's parents paid full tuition. All of it. I've been embarrassed my whole life. The honesty hurt more than the lies. At least the lies let me believe my daughter loved where she came from even if she'd moved away. This was different. This was rejection of everything James and I had built. We gave you everything we had. I know, and I'm grateful. But grateful isn't the same as proud. I can appreciate what you sacrificed without wanting to advertise it to Brandon's family. You weren't just not advertising it. You were actively lying about it. Because the truth made me look less than. Made me the charity case who married up. Made me someone people pitied instead of respected. People like the Chens? Yes, like the Chens. Like everyone in Brandon's world. They already looked at me differently when they found out Dad was a postal worker. I saw it. The calculation, the reassessment. If they'd known the whole truth, if they'd known you were working service jobs at 62, they would have looked at me like I was something Brandon rescued instead of chose. So you invented a different mother. One who was comfortable and respectable and didn't serve champagne at Palmer House. I simplified the story. Made it easier. You lied, Nicole. Stop calling it something else. She started crying. I know I lied, and I know it was wrong. But Mom, you don't understand what it's like. Being judged every day. Having people assume things about you because of where you're from. I wanted to be seen for who I am now, not where I came from. Who you are now is someone who lies about her mother. Is that who you want to be? No. But I don't know how to be anything else. I don't know how to fit into Brandon's world and still be proud of Bronzeville. They're incompatible. Then you chose the wrong world. Or I chose the wrong mother. The words hung between us, sharp, intentional. She'd said what she'd been thinking for 2 years. You think your life would be easier with a different mother. One who was a doctor or a lawyer. One who retired comfortably. One who didn't embarrass you at your own party. I think my life would be easier if you'd just told me about the money, about having $710,000. If I'd known, I could have told Brandon's family. Could have positioned it differently. Positioned it. There's that word again. Yes, positioned. Because perception matters, Mom, whether you want to admit it or not. Perception matters more than truth? Sometimes, yes. In Brandon's world, how things look is just as important as how things are. Then, I'm glad I don't live in Brandon's world. Nicole stood up. I didn't come here to fight. I don't know what I came for. Understanding, maybe. Permission to move on without guilt. I can't give you that. You have to decide for yourself what you can live with. Can you give me anything? Forgiveness? Acknowledgement that I was trying my best, even if I failed? I thought about it. About my daughter who I loved despite everything. Who carried scars I didn't fully understand. Who wanted things I couldn't give her. I can give you honesty. You failed, Nicole. You failed to honor your father's memory. Failed to respect the work your parents did to give you opportunities. Failed to understand that dignity comes from character, not career. And now you're failing to take responsibility for those failures. So that's it? You're just going to condemn me? I'm going to tell you the truth. Whether you do anything with that truth is up to you. She grabbed her purse, headed for the door, stopped. Brandon's parents want to have dinner. All of us. To clear the air. Will you come? Why would I do that? Because we're family. Because despite everything, I need you there. You needed me at your party too. But you asked me not to come. I made a mistake. You made a choice. There's a difference. Mom, please, one dinner. That's all I'm asking. I looked at my daughter, saw the little girl who used to help me in the catering kitchen, saw the teenager who'd been embarrassed when her friends saw our neighborhood, saw the woman who'd chosen a man's family over her own mother. I'll think about it. That's all I can ask. She left. I sat in the quiet house, James's chair across from me, empty, like it had been for 2 years, like it would be forever. 3 months later, May 2025. Spring in Chicago meant the city coming back to life after brutal winter. Flowers in Millennium Park, people eating lunch outside. Hope in the air, even if it didn't always reach everyone. I was at Palmer House on a Saturday afternoon, not working, meeting Nicole and Brandon and his parents for the dinner she'd asked for 3 months ago. I'd made them wait, made myself wait. Needed time to figure out what I wanted from this conversation. The restaurant was on the hotel's ground floor. Lockwood. Upscale, but not intimidating. The kind of place where servers wore black aprons instead of vests, where I could have been a guest instead of staff for once. Nicole was already there when I arrived. She'd lost weight, looked tired. Marriage or guilt or both had taken something from her. Mom, thank you for coming. I said I would. Brandon stood, shook my hand, formal, respectful. Different than the last time we'd talked in the hotel kitchen. Mrs. Granger, I'm glad you're here. Linda and Robert Chen arrived 10 minutes later. Linda looked nervous. Robert looked like a man preparing for a difficult business negotiation. This was going to be uncomfortable for everyone. We ordered, made small talk about weather and work and nothing important. Then after appetizers arrived, Robert cleared his throat. Lorraine, we owe you an apology. A significant one. For what specifically? For making assumptions about your life, your finances, your choices. We were wrong to discuss your future without consulting you, wrong to offer charity you didn't need, wrong to judge you by your uniform instead of your character. It was a good apology, rehearsed but sincere, the apology of a man who'd thought about what he'd done wrong and was trying to make it right. I accept your apology. Linda spoke next. I want you to know that I've been thinking a lot about that night, about why I reacted the way I did when I found out you were working the party, and I realized something uncomfortable about myself. What's that? That I measure people by their professions, by their income, by visible markers of success, and when I saw you in that uniform, I immediately calculated that you were less than, less successful, less worthy of respect, and I'm ashamed of that. Are you apologizing or explaining? Both, I suppose. I'm apologizing for how I treated you. And I'm explaining so you understand it wasn't personal. It was my own prejudice. Prejudice is always personal to the person experiencing it. Linda nodded. You're right. I'm sorry. We ate our entrees. The conversation stayed safe, polite. Nobody mentioned the lies or the shame or the 2 years of deception. We were all dancing around the real issues. Finally, Nicole spoke. Mom, I need to say something. I've been in therapy for 3 months, working on understanding why I did what I did, why I lied about you. And what did you learn? That I was ashamed, not of you specifically, of being working class, of coming from a neighborhood people looked down on, of having parents who worked regular jobs instead of professional careers. I wanted to be someone different, someone who belonged in Brandon's world without explanation. So you edited your history. Yes. And in doing that, I erased you, made you smaller than you are, made your work less dignified than it is, made your choices seem like failures instead of what they actually were. Which is, Deliberate. You chose to sell your business to care for Dad, chose to work at Palmer House because you needed purpose, chose to live modestly even though you had money because that's who you are. And I couldn't see that because I was too busy being embarrassed. It was the most honest Nicole had been. Maybe ever. What changed? I asked. Therapy, Brandon, time, all of it. She looked at her husband. Brandon asked me a question I couldn't answer. He asked if I loved him for who he is, or for the life he could give me, and I didn't know. I'd been so focused on fitting into his world that I'd lost track of why I wanted to be there in the first place. And now? Now I'm trying to figure out who I actually am, not who I pretend to be, not who Brandon's family wants me to be, just me. That's good work, hard work. Yeah. Nicole's eyes filled with tears. Mom, I can't undo the lies, can't take back the embarrassment I caused you, can't erase the fact that I asked you not to come to my own party because your job made me uncomfortable. All I can do is apologize and try to be better. Better how? Better by telling the truth, by bringing Brandon to Bronzeville, by showing him where I'm from instead of hiding it, by introducing him to people from church, by stopping the performance and just being honest. Have you done those things? She nodded. We went to your house last week, spent the afternoon there. I showed Brandon my childhood bedroom, Dad's workshop in the basement, the kitchen where you and Dad used to prep for catering events. All of it. I looked at Brandon. And I finally understand who Nicole is, he said. Where she comes from. What shaped her. I wish I'd known 2 years ago. Wish she'd trusted me enough to tell me. Why didn't you? I asked Nicole. Because I didn't trust myself. Didn't trust that who I actually am is enough. Thought I needed to be someone more impressive. Someone whose mother didn't work service jobs. Your mother worked service jobs for 25 years in catering, then worked them again after your father died. Service work is the foundation of your entire childhood. How could you be ashamed of that? Because I wanted to forget where I came from, wanted to believe I'd transcended it, become something better. You became something different. That's not the same as better. Nicole nodded. I know that now. The server brought dessert. Chocolate lava cake. The kind of fancy presentation that cost $18 and took someone 15 minutes to plate. The kind of work I did 4 nights a week. Lorraine, Robert said, I want to ask you something. Not as an apology or an explanation, just as someone trying to understand. Why do you work at Palmer House? With $710,000 in assets, you could travel, volunteer, do anything. Why banquet service? It was a fair question, one I'd asked myself, because after James died, I couldn't be still. Couldn't be alone with my thoughts. Needed something that required my body and my attention, but not my emotions. Banquet service gave me that. Simple tasks, clear expectations. At the end of the shift, the work was done. No lingering, no what-ifs, just finished. But don't you want more? More what? More recognition? More money? More status? I had those things when I owned my business. They didn't make me happy. This work makes me content. That's more valuable. Linda leaned forward. I think I understand. After I retired, I felt useless, empty. Started filling my time with committees and boards because I didn't know who I was without my career. Maybe I should have just gotten a simple job. Maybe. We finished dessert. The server brought the check. Robert reached for it. So did I. I can pay for my own dinner, I said. I know you can. But I'd like to pay. Not as charity, as family. I let him take the check. Small concession. First step towards something that might eventually feel like family. Outside the restaurant, Nicole hugged me. Can I come visit next week? Just me. Not Brandon. Not a performance. Just your daughter wanting to see her mother. You know where I live. I do. And Mom, I'm sorry it took me so long to remember that. She left with Brandon and his parents. I watched them walk toward the parking garage. A family still figuring out how to be a family. I took the elevator to the grand ballroom level. Not to work, just to look. The space where my daughter's party had imploded, where truth had forced its way through 2 years of lies. Miguel found me there. "Lorraine, you're not scheduled tonight." "I know, just visiting." "How was the dinner?" "Complicated, honest, maybe the beginning of something better." "That's good. Listen, I wanted to tell you. We have a lead banquet server position opening up, full-time, $22 an hour. Benefits. I think you'd be perfect for it." "I'm happy part-time." "I know, but think about it. You've been here 18 months. You're one of our best. The promotion is yours if you want it." I thought about it, about moving from part-time to full-time, about taking on more responsibility, about filling more hours with work. "Can I let you know in a week?" "Take your time." I drove home to Bronzeville, to my paid-off house, to my $710,000 in assets, to the life I'd chosen, not the life anyone assumed I had. Nicole's car was in my driveway. She was sitting on the porch, waiting. I know I said next week, but I couldn't wait. "Can we talk?" "We can always talk." We went inside, sat in the living room where James's chair still waited, where our family's history lived in every piece of furniture, where the truth lived, regardless of how anyone tried to reposition it. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Because this isn't a story about revenge or public humiliation. It's a story about dignity, about choosing work that fulfills you regardless of what others think, about the cost of shame and the value of honesty. Thanks for watching. Remember, your worth isn't defined by your job title or your income. It's defined by your character, your choices, and your courage to live according to your own values, not someone else's expectations. See you in the next video.